everyone, to this transmission of Ascend TV, Life on the Autism Spectrum. I'm your co-host, Keith Halperin.
And I'm Will Burnick.
Mm-hmm. And our guest this week is Chris Mitchell, the Confident Autistic. But before we get into our guest, Will, I can't see your shirt, but you always got an interesting t-shirt. Show us and tell us about it.
Well, for this week's shirt, I've got my Giants shirt. As many know, the Giants season is wrapping up, and so they won't be playing they won't be playing for the rest of the year. But they're doing great. They're doing great so far. They might make the playoffs.
Well, thank you very much, Will. Good to hear about that. Go Giants. Would you care to introduce our guest?
Tell us about how you got into the autism community.
Well, I got into the autism community, and we'll go into this deeper, I think, in this interview. After years of trying to figure out why I was so different than everyone else. And once I realized that autism is a part of who I am, I embraced it. And I wanted to tell the world that I'm on the spectrum. And I made it my mission to start a YouTube channel and eventually a podcast that will help people have the confidence to fully embrace being on the autism spectrum and tell the world they're on the spectrum. For example, when I go out in public, I wear a t-shirt most of the time that has something autism related on it. I have a bracelet that I wear all the time that says autism awareness. And it's a great conversation starter. I'm not ashamed about being on the spectrum. I go out in the world and share that with people. And I want to help people who's on the spectrum have that same level of confidence. There's nothing to be ashamed of. We just see the world differently. And that is my mission. And that's why I got involved in the community, because so many people, we have stereotypes, we have ableism, we have so many problems that tell us that we're wrong. We're not wrong. We just see the world differently. And we need to be visible out there so more people will understand and accept autism for ourselves and for our future generations. Part of the reason I do what I do is I have a great nephew. He is 7 years old. He was diagnosed on the spectrum. And I want to make this world more accessible for him when he grows up.
Tell us about your podcast.
My podcast is called Live Confidently Autistic. Now, my YouTube channel is called The Confident Autistic, but the podcast is called Live Confidently Autistic. And it has or will have, because we're about to launch it, guests that's going to share with people resources that are available. Because I believe two things. One, for us to be confident, we first have to understand autism. So I have a series on my YouTube channel called Adult Autism 101, where I break down some of the traits, characteristics, myths, etc. about autism. Then Live Confidently Autistic has guests who talk about resources. They may talk about a book they've written. They may talk about how to apply for SSI. They may talk about how to get a emotional support animal, things like that. Because we first need to understand autism, then we need to understand the resources and services that are available to us, so we can get those two tools in ourselves, so we can have the confidence to go out there and show the world I'm autistic and it's okay.
What's your favorite program in the autism community?
Ooh, that's a really good question, because I'm just starting to explore programs. I received my diagnosis a little over a year ago, so I'm just exploring stuff right now. I'm going to be very honest with you. I want to explore more. I have something else going on in my life that's taking up some time, which I don't mind. I'm married, and my wife has stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. So as I'm going through understanding my autism and learning about it, my main focus right now, or my co-main focus, is taking care of her and being there for her through her battle against cancer.
Chris, heard from you that you were diagnosed late in life. Can you tell us about that? About why you chose to become diagnosed late in your life?
Yes, I'll be happy to do that. Excuse me. I'll be happy to share that with you. We had my nephew, I mentioned him earlier, my great nephew. He came over and spent time with us in the morning and the afternoon when he was young, like 3, 4 years old. Because his mom drove a school bus and he could not be on the school bus, so we watched him. And we learned he was on the autism spectrum. And I started doing a lot of research on it so we could support him while he was at the house. And know that when he gets overwhelmed, he'll go in a corner, and we need to just leave him alone. No one in the house really knew that. I figured it out. I explained it to my wife and my mom, who lives with us. So I started doing research. I started watching his behavior, and I started saying, hey, those are things I did when I was a kid. And that's the scary part. Hey, those are some behaviors he's doing today at the age of 4, I still do today. So I started really thinking about it, and thought maybe I'm on the spectrum, which I think we all go through that phase. That we first start wondering, are we on the spectrum? We start consuming stuff. And then I finally got the courage to tell my wife that I thought this, and she was very receptive about it. It was really cool. She accepted it. She did not question it. She did not challenge me on that. Then I went to my doctor, and I was really nervous about going to my doctor because there's so many doctors who dismiss people who think they're on the spectrum, and we get so much pushback from doctors. I told her I've always had trouble with noise. I always wear headphones when I'm out in public. Noise bothers me. It causes me to be cranky, fatigued. I'm just really sensitive to noise. And before I even mentioned the word autism, my doctor looked at me and said, oh, that's not uncommon for people who are on the spectrum. As if she was saying to me, hasn't anyone told you that you're on the spectrum? So she encouraged me to go and see a counselor to figure out, as she put it, how my mind works. So I found a wonderful counselor in the area, and we talked. And he said, I worked with him before, and he said, the last time I worked with you, I was leaning towards suggesting that you may be in the autism spectrum. So we talked, and we talked about the pros and cons of getting a diagnosis, and we can go maybe into that a little bit more later. But basically, I did not need one because I'm physically disabled. I'm somewhat retired. I don't need it for accommodations for work, although that's a good reason to get an official diagnosis. But I wanted one because I wanted to be able to tell people I'm on the spectrum with authenticity. I know that self-identifying in our community is accepted. And I have no problem with that. And I have no problem with people doing that because there's so many barriers to get the diagnosis as an adult. Cost, financial responsibility, qualified people who can do the assessment and do the diagnosis. The list goes on. But I wanted that piece of paper. So he found me somebody who did the screening in my area, which was incredible because I don't live in a big city. And I got in and I got screened. And I've heard stories of people taking years to do this. So I don't want to rub this in anyone's face. I was able to get in within 2 months and got assessed and got and received my diagnosis. So I went through all of this because I am a person of character and integrity. And when I tell somebody something, I want it to be the truth. So that's why I chose to receive and go the full distance of a late in life diagnosis of autism.
Excellent. Excellent. And a very inspiring story, too. Things like that. Another question for you, Chris. I noticed a little thing here and there called Define Yourself. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, define yourself. Define yourself is the name of my business, which what I legally operate under, that runs the Confident Autistic and Live Confidently Autistic, the podcast. Define yourself is a slogan I came up with. Is hashtag define yourself, and hashtags are really popular in social media. I'm not a big social media person, but they are popular. And define yourself means no matter what's going on in your life, don't let anything or anyone define you. Don't let someone tell you, oh, you're autistic. You're not equal to me. No, no, that's just their opinion. You can define who you are. Don't let anyone or anything define you in a negative way. Only allow things to define you that you've chosen and that lift you up, that encourages you, that gives you power. I use a story I tell to people all the time about a car, and we can. This is an analogy, so I'm going to try to break it down here for you. That our lives are like cars. Think of yourself like your life is a car, and getting where you want in life takes a car. So you have a brand new car. Now you have two choices. You can drive it yourself, Okay. And then you can choose where you go, when you go, what you want to do. And you don't let anyone tell you, you obey the laws, but you don't let anyone tell you what you can and cannot do. Or you can let somebody else tell you you're not equal, you're not worthy, you're not strong enough. You have autism, you can't do this job, all this other thing that's negative that will derail you or stand between you and your goals. And that's the equivalent of taking those brand new car keys and giving it to your 14-year-old kid to drive you around. First of all, if you have kids, that's great, wonderful. But a 14-year-old, A, does not have a license, and B, teenagers are often self centered. They're not going to take you where you want to go or do the things you want to do. You're now letting somebody else be in control of your life. You're letting someone else decide where you go, when you go, or even if you go somewhere. That's part of the analogy. And when we let other people tell us what we can and cannot do, and in essence, defining who we are and what we can achieve, we're turning over the keys to a 14-year-old to drive us around in our brand new, this year model car, which they're going to wreck. We need to take those keys back, those metaphorical keys. That's a tough word for me, and take control of life. And we make the choices to define who we are and who we can become. And that's where define yourself comes from.
Thank you again, Chris. That was very, very informative and super inspiring. Uh, Now, our cultural correspondent, Stacey Kennedy, will have a question or two for you.
Would you say there's much more open minds now, like as to between being self-diagnosed and officially diagnosed?
That's an excellent question,
Okay.
and and let me address that. I think it is. I think there's a lot more open minded to this and more acceptance,
Hmm.
because we are doing things in this community to educate others. And one of the things I do on my channel is I encourage my viewers to share my videos with their support people, friends, family, to get the word out. I go out in public, like I mentioned earlier, wearing autism related clothing and wrist bracelets, etc., that starts the conversation. I was at excuse me, a place to get my glasses. I don't want to say the company's name. It's a wonderful company, but they don't pay me to say the name, so I'm not going to say it. And I was in there, and we were having a conversation with the lady that, not the optometrist, but the one that does here's the glass frames you can get. I don't, a glass frame lady, I call her. I don't know what her title is. Anyway, and she kept making eye contact with me, which I hate. I hate that. It makes me uncomfortable. And finally, my wife is with me. My wife's a big advocate for me. She explained to her why I was getting fidgety. She said, he has autism. He
Hmm.
doesn't like eye contact. And that opened the door for me to have a conversation with her and tell her more about autism. I'm finding in my experience with people, people understand autism more than I thought they would. I go to the pharmacy. I'm definitely afraid of needles. I act like a 4-year old when you give me a shot, or three, even two. I'm embarrassing when there's a needle involved. When I go and get my flu shot, I'm always tense and acting out and trying to run away. And the pharmacist finally looked at me and like, "What's wrong with him?" My wife leaned over and said, "He has autism." The pharmacist, "Oh," and he was more gentle with me and helped me through that process. My doctor knows that I'm on the spectrum. She will hold my hand while I'm giving blood for my A1C check. So I'm finding a lot of people very understanding about it, more so than I thought when I first started to come out about being on the spectrum. I'm finding our society is becoming more aware of it. And by me going out and others going out wearing autism apparel and being willing to talk about it, we're helping more people in our society. And when I say in our society, I don't mean within the autism society. I mean the society as a whole, the neurodiverse and neurotypical. Better understand the condition, better understand what our experiences are, and this causes people to be more open to autism and more accepting. So others that will be diagnosed or even self-identify doesn't matter. People don't question that much. I that much because they're starting to understand there's so many barriers to get that diagnosis: time, cost, finding somebody who would do it. Sometimes I've heard stories of people who sometimes had to go to a child psychiatrist to get the diagnosis, and they get the same test as a young child, and that's ridiculous. We don't. Well, some of us play with toys. In fact, I have a collection of school buses. I love buses. Some of us play with toys, but some of the questions are more for children. They need to assess adults. There's not that many people who are qualified or comfortable assessing adults. So people do are understanding this, they're accepting it, and that's because we who are on the spectrum, whether we self-identify or receive the diagnosis, are not ashamed to tell the world what's going on and bring it to the forelight for people to see. Now, a little bit earlier, you mentioned something about being late diagnosed versus earlier in life, etc. It's never too late to get the diagnosis because for me, it was a game changer. I mean, I wish I knew early. I wish I knew when I was a kid, but I understand in the 1970s, I'm 60, by the way. In the 1970s, the criteria was so different. I did not meet it then. But today I do meet it because we know more about autism. It doesn't matter when you get diagnosed, whether you get diagnosed at the age of 6 months, well, probably 18, or when you're 60 years old. Get that diagnosis. And if somebody tells you, you go to a doctor and they say, oh, you can't be autistic, that's their opinion. And you believe that you may be open minded, but find somebody who will at least listen to you and do a fair assessment on you. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine. Self-identifying is fine. Because for me, when I got my diagnosis, I know a lot of people in our community don't like the puzzle piece because of the connection it has with a certain agency and some negative pushback on that. But to me, when I got my diagnosis, that was like the missing puzzle piece that made my life complete, made me understand me. So no matter what age you are, if you think you're on the spectrum, doesn't matter, even if you're retired, go and get that diagnosis if that's something that you really want. It can be a game changer for you.
Have you met anyone on the autism community who shares your traits?
A couple of things for you. First of all, what are you most proud of your autism?
That's a really good question. What am I most proud of? Well, first thing that leaps to mind is my ability to share it with the world. I'm very proud that I'm not ashamed of it. I mean, let's just put it where it is. I mean, I'm totally not ashamed of the fact that I don't like noise. I don't like small talk. I don't like crowds. I like being in control. If I go somewhere and I'm in the audience, I'm nervous. But if I'm going somewhere, and I've done this before, I do presenting, I know exactly what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and I'm much more relaxed. I love that. I love the fact that um, my autism lets me see the world differently and interpret the world differently. Sure, there's times it's frustrating, but I get a unique view of the world that other people don't get to have. And I experience the world differently, and that's one of the things that I love about it. One thing that I really love is 'cause I take things literally, and I'll admit it, I do. And I have been kind of, I don't know, some people have, given me weird looks for that. Well, my childhood dream was to work in morning radio. And I discovered my unique way of viewing the world, taking things literally, taking what people say to the most literal term, and just responding by blurting out.
And then my second question is, would you care to comment on the fairly recent governmental discussion at a very high level about autism and what may cause it and what directions it may go to?
Okay, yeah, I generally try to stay away from politics, but I will address this topic. I don't follow the news that closely. I'll be honest with you about that. But I understand there are some people who are now going back through um, things that have already been debunked on what causes autism. And I think that's horrible that we are going backwards instead of forwards. We know so much, and people who do not have a degree, I mean, like a psychiatrist, a psychologist, whatever. People who have studied autism should be the ones telling us what causes autism, if there's a cause, everything about it. People who do not have a degree should not be taking their status, their symbol, their position in our society, whether it be in government, wherever, to tell someone else what causes autism. Uh, you know, we've had the big debate about vaccines. Do vaccines cause autism? And that's been debunked. You know, we don't. I don't think we really know what causes it. And I know in my case, I did some research. I was born with the rubella syndrome. My mom was exposed to German measles while she's carrying me, and I had many birth defects. I had a constricted aorta. I have a speech impediment. I am visually impaired, and the research I've done has shown from documented sources that kids that are born with rubella syndrome in the 1960s, which I was, have a higher occurrence of autism. Does that mean everybody who has the exposed to rubella syndrome or born with that would be autistic? Probably not. But this is scientific evidence. We need to listen to the science and not to uh, politicians or anyone else that does not have a scientific background. During the COVID era years, there was a meme that I loved. And because there's so many people telling you what's causing COVID, what you should do, should you take the vaccine or not, and all this other stuff. And it was a picture of the cast of Gilligan's Island, and it said on there, even the millionaire, referring to Mr. Howe, listened to the professor. And that's what we need to do. Listen to people who know what they're talking about autism, who study it. This is the field, not somebody who's now in charge of a department and government, whatever, telling us what they think. They don't have the credentials. Check the sources. Make sure it's from someone who is credible. I used to study journalism, and citing your sources is very important to me. So make sure you get it from a credible source. There's so much misinformation out there. Listen to the experts, not to the talking heads.
Excellent.
Very well said. Yeah.
Yes. Last, sort of a brief follow up on that, Chris, is based on what you've said, which to me sounds very, very sensible and true. What do you think that our community and our allies should do about it? This information.
That's an excellent question. What our allies and ourselves we can do is to share the truth. For those of us on the spectrum, share what our lives are like. No one knows autism better than those of us who are on the spectrum. The people who are second best at knowing what autism is like is our support people. Not to mention, the doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists who study this for a career. But I'm just saying we need to share our experiences. We need to bust those myths. I was talking with a relative of mine because I have another relative that is on the spectrum, and this relative mentioned to me one of the things that she thought was a cause of autism, and I told her that myth has been debunked years ago. She was believing that. So when you hear these myths, point people to the truth. Cite your sources. Find credible spaces on the internet that explain autism and all, and point people there. Maybe I've not tried it myself, but you may be able to use Snopes. Not that I'm getting paid by saying the name, but you could use a source like that to verify the facts. Get out there, be proud of who you are, be confident, wear the autism shirt, start those conversations, and we together can start changing the world's opinion of autism one person at a time. And, without calling out anyone, we could be directing people away from these talking heads that are giving out misinformation. Because who knows about autism more than we do, right? We're autistic, we're on the spectrum. We should know this stuff and we can share it.
If our viewers are interested in learning about your podcast or other information, how is the best way for them to find you?
That's an awesome question, but I don't like the word if. I like being more positive. So, for the viewers who would like to know more about me or my podcast, you can visit my YouTube channel, which is The Confident Autistic. You'll find videos on there, including the videos of my podcast. Now, if you're just a podcast type of guy that does not need the pictures, maybe that's overstimulating for you. I get it. There's also an audio format of the podcast. And to find that, I made it simple for you. Go to liveconfidentlyautistic.com. And that will take you to a page that's going to have a link for everything you're going to need for the podcast and all the podcast player platforms is on Apple, Spotify, and all the others. I can't think of any others right now, but it's on all those platforms. So those are the ways to find me. The Confident Autistic on YouTube or liveconfidentlyautistic.com through your favorite web browser, whether it be on a computer, a tablet, a phone, whatever you can connect to the internet that you can type in liveconfidentlyautistic.com, it will take you there.
We'll now go to our cultural correspondent, Stacey Kennedy.
Hello, everybody. And today, one of the exciting things I would like to share is Saturday, September 20th, our group AASCEND will be having their annual picnic at Hellman Hollow. It's HELLMAN and then Hollow, as in Sleepy Hollow, right? In Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, California. It'll start at noon. Bring something to share if you can. There will be games and setup will be at 11:30 a.m. Half hour prior to the picnic starting. Again, if you're interested, you live in San Francisco or anywhere in the Bay Area in California, come and join us at our picnic Saturday, September 20th at Hellman Hollow, Golden Gate Park. Next thing I'd like to share is the Walt Disney Family Museum have a sensory-friendly film screening, and you'll have to go to their website and find out, but they of which particular days, but there's movies and shorts that they make the film a comfortable experience. Instead of lights, they're dimmed, and instead of the volume being off, it's turned down a little or so, and there's the closed captioning will be turned on. Again, this is at the Walt Disney Family Museum for those who are, Disney fans, for families or for adults or for everyone. I mean, anyone who's interested, for sure. And you can walk around, you can enjoy the film and whatever is most comfortable within that environment. So, yeah. Last thing, there is a place in San Francisco, California on Hyde Street called the Buena Vista. I experienced this lately. It is a cafe, restaurant, and bar where you can enjoy the jubilant of neurodivergence, creativity, and music, dance, storytelling, and audience participation. So their website, you can go to thebuenavista.com or so. But yeah, if you enjoy like a day or night out or so, that's one of the places to go where we can be ourselves and celebrate all neurodiversity, etc. So again, that is my report, and thank you.
Well, everyone, that is our program for this time. Again, our great thanks to Chris Mitchell, the Confident Autistic. So until next time, I'm your co-host, Keith Halperin.
I'm your co-host, Will Burnick.
I'm your cultural correspondent, Stacey Kennedy.
I'm your book reviewer, Jennifer Brooks.
And I'm Chris Mitchell, the guest.
And we're AASCEND TV, live on the autism spectrum. So until next time, everyone, stay well and stay good.